Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the latest and gayest episode of RNG for January 2023, the monthly gaming news series where I talk about the things that happened in the past month, or in this case, the past month and a half. Basically what happened is I started playing Dragon Quest Builders 2, and my productivity has gone out the window. But I do plan on making a dedicated video about this game in the future, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, let's get right into the news that you probably already know everything about already. So you probably already know what happened at the Game Awards. Elden Ring won Game of the Year, which it absolutely deserved, and the show ended in probably the most random way possible. And honestly, that was probably the most interesting part of the show because the Game Awards is freaking boring every single year. Aside from some game trailers that were pretty cool, but honestly didn't have a lot of gameplay to show, the most interesting thing about this show is always the drama surrounding it that happens on Twitter and other places aside from the Game Awards itself. For example, when the voting opened up for Player's Choice Awards, Sonic fans and Genshin fans were having a war with each other, trying to outvote the Player's Choice Award with bots, and honestly it was pretty hilarious watching them go back and forth. But in the end, Genshin ended up winning out just because they bribed their players with free in-game currency. So the salt storm that ensued afterwards was pretty hilarious. The only other notable thing has to do with Microsoft, but we'll get into them later. But at the end of the Game Awards, after Elden Ring was announced as Game of the Year, this random kid walked up on stage and, well, you all know what happened.
Hey, Matan. Real quick, I want to thank everybody and say that I think I want to nominate this award to my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi, Bill Clinton. Thank you, everybody.
All right, well,
You are coping and seething.
And that was probably the only thing people were talking about after the Game Awards because it was so random and hilarious compared to the rest of the show, which honestly, Jeff, you really got to step up your game and make this show worth watching and stop trying to be the pseudo Oscars. This isn't Hollywood. Stop inviting celebrities and stop with all the bullshit. Anyway, let's talk about Microsoft. First thing was, Microsoft had absolutely nothing to show at the Game Awards. Again. And then they announced that they're going to be raising the prices of their games to $70, which is like, what the fuck are you doing? Having your games at $60 was one of the only things that Xbox had over PlayStation at this point. And if you don't know my opinion on Xbox, basically, it's the most pointless console in existence now. Everything Microsoft has can also be played on PC. So if you already have a PC, there's literally no point in buying an Xbox. While PlayStation has the advantage of having actual exclusives. But PlayStation's games being $70 was pretty much the only advantage that Xbox had. And now that's gone, making their system even more pointless than before, because they still don't have any exclusives, let alone any games that are worth buying at $70 on that system. So I don't get it. And of course the Xbox fanboys came to their defense after, making fun of PlayStation for having $70 games all this time, because of course they did. And then there's the whole Microsoft buying Activision thing, which doesn't seem to be going very well for them, at least compared to previous purchases. The FTC seems to be trying to stop this at all costs at this point, and so we'll have to wait and see what happens. Honestly, I don't care what happens to Activision because they're a shitty company anyway. This is like the only thing Microsoft has to get a leg up on the competition in the console space, and honestly they need it at this point. Even though it sucks to see these companies trying to monopolize the industry. Oh well. And aside from all the stuff about Microsoft and the Game Awards, there actually wasn't a whole lot of news that came out last month. But one thing I want to talk about is the game Samurai Maiden, which, if you don't know, released in December and had quite a lot of complaints about the game's localization, which was clearly and very intentionally changed for Western audiences or whatever. But there really wasn't any justification for any of it. After getting a bunch of complaints from the people who actually play these kind of games, the developers did reverse the really bad localization changes. It's a step in the right direction, but I haven't seen if the whole game is fixed in terms of localization, and there's still actual censorship in the game, so take that for what you will. The game was published by D3, who doesn't have quite as bad of a track record as some of the other localization companies out there. So it's good to see them listening to fan feedback on this issue, because a lot of the other companies will just blow everyone off when they criticize their localizations. But anyway, that's about all that happened in December, so let's go look at some releases for January, which there also aren't a lot of. First, we have a game called Are the Caretakers, which is a really bizarre looking RPG, management sim hybrid sort of thing. The game looks like it has a lot going for it, but I hadn't even heard of it until very recently, so hopefully the game gets some more publicity, if it's good at least. On January 11th, we had Drago Noka, which is an RPG and life sim kind of game, but you also get to train a dragon throughout the story, it looks like. This game has been out in Japan for about a year, but we're just now getting the English version. On January 24th, we have Neptunia Sisters vs. Sisters, which fucking finally, a Neptunia game that isn't a shitty spin-off. It's about damn time. And this game looks like it could be pretty good compared to previous ones, so we'll see. On January 25th, the Japanese version of Legend of Heroes Kuro no Kiseki. So if you know Japanese, you can play it before everyone else. On January 27th, we have a fun-looking, cutesy, chibi-style Metroidvania called Alice Escaped. And this is probably going to be my first 2023 game that I play, so look forward to hearing more about it next year when I make my Game of the Year video. Just saying. And lastly, on January 31st, we have Spongebob SquarePants Cosmic Shake, which gameplay-wise looks like a follow-up to the Battle for Bikini Bottom and SpongeBob movie games, so this game could be a lot of fun just like those ones. And I'm actually looking forward to it. And that wraps up this episode of RNG, Extremely Late and Gay Edition. As always, you can post a comment about any news stories you want me to talk about in next month's video. And if you want to see more content from me, don't forget to subscribe. I don't upload super often, but I try to make everything that I put out interesting at least. My next videos I'm strongly considering making are a video on Dragon Quest Builders 2 and what we could possibly see in a sequel if they decide to make one. I'm also heavily considering making a top 10 or top 20 or maybe even top 30 video game soundtracks of all time, which honestly would probably make a lot of people salty, but hey, that's what I'm here for. Just saying. And remember, have high standards, low expectations. Also, be one of the first to join my Discord server. Link in my community tab. Just saying.